And we're back online. In the previous session we had with Bilal and Honey, we discussed how to adopt a system thinker's mindset. And now we're here with Anne talking about AI design career paths. So I'm very much interested to listening to more of the social and technical elements of how to get a job in this changing landscape, and who better to guide us and orient us than Anne Cantera.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for having me, Joaquin. Oh, I wish I came bearing really good news. I think I come bearing two separate stories, the media's version of what's happening and the actual humans who are dealing with this, and what they're seeing, I think, are very, very different things. What the market says, why it feels worse, and what to do now is kind of the theme of where I'm heading with this chat today. So we know the market is not great. We see a lot of people posting about, I've applied to 1,000 jobs, I haven't heard back from any. And then we see recruiters saying, it's not the ATS, it's not us, it's not, all the stories that we see going back and forth on LinkedIn. And I have to say, like, most designers right now are not losing because they lack talent. I think they're losing because the signal has changed. And we're all trying to figure out the big question of what version of design is the market still willing to pay for? And I think the answer to that is they don't even know. And it feels like the goalposts are constantly moving. There's the UX dead camp. There's the, everything's dead, nothing's dead. I kind of am in the camp of nothing's dead, but everything is changing. There are some statistics that I want to share, and I want to caveat by saying I don't necessarily believe these, but this is what the media is saying, and I think, like I said, what the people are saying is very different. 82% of, say again?
Did you want to share your screen, or
no? It's
okay.
82% of hiring managers say design need is stable or increased. I can imagine everybody out there absolutely disagreeing with that. Growth is 7% growth projected for web developers and digital designers. 69% growth in AI specific jobs versus 9% overall market. 7 times AI exposed junior roles more likely to demand senior skills. That one's interesting because I think if you speak to anybody, they'll tell you there's no junior roles to be had, very few and far between. And 39% of core skills expected to change by 2030. I totally believe that one. We're seeing it in real time. We're seeing the exhaustion in real time. And we're seeing people, I feel like there's 2 camps of job seekers right now in the design realm. And I speak to both of them. One of them is the designer who's been doing it a very long time and has been applying for a year, 1,000 applications, and not upskilling at all. I think that is a failing strategy. And then you see the camp of taking every class, learning all the things, getting really burnt on even knowing what direction to take because it changes so quickly. And I'm not saying one is right and one is wrong. Both are tough. But one of the things that I am seeing is job descriptions that are laundry lists of skills. They want you to be a researcher, a designer, a strategist. Like, it's beyond unicorn. And one of the things that I personally saw with my own eyes was I went to a chief AI officer conference. Kind of felt like I was, looking through the curtains of the lair, and they were absolutely giddy over the idea of super ICs and super managers, which speaks to the one of the things that I've been railing against for a year is the short-term gains, like the short-term plan. Like, okay, if you take your design team from 20 down to 2 people, and they're both super ICs, AI enabled, being able to do the work of 10 people, what happens if one of them gets hit by a bus? It's a simple thought process, right? Like, this is not a smart strategy, but this is the strategy they're going for. The short-term gains of what's going to look good in the next quarter trumps everything. Do I recommend you try and become a super IC? I mean, I consider myself a super IC, but I don't want to work somewhere where I have to do the work of 12 people. So that was concerning, and that seems to be what the job descriptions are also kind of asking for. You need to be all these things, and I don't believe that you need to be all these things. I just think we're in a really messy place with the job market right now. And you know, I speak to a lot of out of work designers, and I think there's a lot of hype in the media that gives them false hope. But I do think things will take a turn at some point. But I think that is up to leadership, and I think leadership needs to just be shown what they're trying to do now isn't going to work. And when they come to that realization, finally, hopefully someday, soon, things will get better. Because the data is saying one thing and the designers are saying completely different, having completely different experience. And also, you know, with all these Meta layoffs and Google all the big guys laying people off, they get first crack at these jobs. I've seen recruiters how they use LinkedIn, and a lot of them there is a field where they can put in companies they are trying to recruit from, and those big names always win. So I shouldn't say always. They win a lot. No absolutes. I'm not a Sith. So I think it's really hard for a lot of people to just figure out what their path forward is. I actually saw one of the most brilliant developers I know out of work, about to lose his house, built himself a system, scrapes the web of jobs, actually gives a sort of a grade to that job, how much of a match he is. Is he 80, 90, 93%? Will customize his resume to be a better fit for that job, apply for him automatically. I think he's applied to a few thousand jobs this way, and I think he's gotten 2 interviews. I mean, just to kind of really tie it all up in a ball, to the point where this guy has a system, like an amazing system he built for himself. He's got amazing credentials, amazing experience, and he's barely hearing back. I myself have been doing a little undercover investigation and applying to things quite a bit, applying to jobs I don't want, to see what is actually happening out there. And I get auto rejected for jobs I'm wildly qualified for. I don't get interviews. I get recruited. That's a different story. But when I apply, nothing. And like I said, these jobs that I'm applying for, I am qualified and or overqualified for. So people who are early in their AI learning, trying to apply for these positions, chances are, if I'm getting auto rejected, if you have very little AI experience and you're applying to these AI UX jobs, chances are you might get pretty quickly rejected also. But also there doesn't seem to be any rhyme or reason. I'm seeing nobody post about getting new jobs. We used to see them all the time on LinkedIn. Yeah, I mean, it was pretty normal part of the day to see one or two I got the job posts. I haven't seen any in a long time. I don't know if that's, I mean, it's no metric, but it's what it's happening in real time. So I don't know if you've noticed that as well, but that's what I'm seeing is a
No,
lot of people. Yeah.
I hear you, and I'm saying the same thing. I think people have kind of checked out. They've kind of been worn down so much with the brutality of how stringent and unrealistic these job applications are.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I I've been in jobs that are wildly undefined and volatile and complex, and I have to always manage stakeholder expectations. Like, you want me to do a job that is for 4 to 6 people. Which hats do you want me to put on, and at which time, and in what ratio? Otherwise, if you don't give me clarity, I will make whatever adjustment I want. But you need to understand that this is not a feasible way of running this function or this set of functions. So, but I'm right there with you. I'm seeing more job postings. I will say that I'm seeing a lot more job postings in terms of research and design, but I haven't seen them being filled, at least within my network.
Yeah. And I think so I try to operate from a place of hope, and I do think that design in its face is going to change. Um, I'm presenting not my college thesis, but the last 4 years of my work with Rosenfeld at the end of July, and it really is a lot about the new design stack, which I'm sure some people will even hate that I'm saying those words, but it is happening. But I think what's happening too is designers are there's two parts of AI in design. There's using AI in your design process, and then there's designing AI products, and it's not the same. And I think that's why so many companies don't know what they're even asking for, because there's a push to use AI, and then there's also this push to create agents and voice and chat. And then what I think is going to happen is a combination. I've already seen it. I've already seen one amazing new product do a combination of UI, chat, and agents in sort of a relay experience where you're getting passed off to the best possible interface at the best possible time. And I go into that really deeply in the talk that I'm giving in July. But I think designers need to understand, when it comes to your portfolio, now you need to show both, not just that you're using AI in your workflow, but you're designing AI products as well. So now, the bar was we need to see it in your workflow, right? And like a few months ago, and now it's like, all right, we need to not just see it in your workflow, but can you design behavior? Can you design failure states? Can you design for trusts? Do you know how to do evals? What do you know about governments? Can you do chat? Can you do voice? And super excited tomorrow, Designathon through Swarm is welcoming Josh Clark and Veronica Kindred, and their new book, Sentient Design, is all about what's coming next. Maybe if you work at Google, it is. It's all about the adaptive pieces of UI that, static UI is not going to be the only interface anymore. And all of this has to be so overwhelming to people who are consistently trying to upskill and are just sort of getting on that path. And I one of the reasons why I started voiceofai.io was so there would be sort of a blueprint of, all right, I've been a UI designer, I've been a UX designer. How do I get prepared for what's next? And that was sort of my love letter to this community. Like, here you go. Here's a little bit of a roadmap of what I think you should be expecting. And so far it's pretty spot on. But if the hirers still don't know what they need and want, how do you be proactive and upskill without tormenting yourself? And I don't have the answer other than I have been grinding 6-7 days a week for 4 years to just stay afloat.
I think just to add to that,
Yeah, please add.
There's two parts of it. I mean, there's the upskilling aspect, and then there's the demand aspect. Like if the talent is trying to put themselves in a position that they are wanted, that's great. That's proactive, whatever, but you can't do anything if the job market is not pulling. If the job market is not pulling because they have people in management that are procuring these new talent, these new resources, these new tools. The tools are trying in themselves to replace designers and make promises that aren't necessarily true, that aren't based on rigor or science or evidence. They're just making claims. And like you said, people that are in positions of power are giddy at the prospect of having a function replaced so that they can add to their bonus check or increase their operating capital, operating budget, whatever. But I feel like there's going to be a snapping or two soon with enough lawsuits or enough logging of negative performance in a quarter or two. That, I mean, it's been going on long enough that people have given and extended the reputation on the promise of a vendor 2 quarters ago. You can't keep making these promises and showing these subpar results without having a backlash and saying, all right, we need people again. Like, we made a mistake. We were proud. We didn't want to say it. We didn't want to admit it. It cost us our bonus check. Now it's time to turn back and try to do things a little bit more manually. That's my explanation. I don't know.
Well, yesterday I spent 4 hours on the phone, 2 hours with my health insurance company trying to get logged on, and then 2 more hours with my mortgage company trying to get logged on. And in the end, they both said, oh, we need a specialist to call you back. When? 5 to 7 days. Like, the fact that that's acceptable made me start a post yesterday. I didn't post it, but my first thought was, no AI for these big companies until they get their basics fixed. Like fix your basics. Your customer should be able to log on to your website. Things are just so broken at this point in time that I can't imagine it getting worse, but it probably could. But while it's getting worse and while you're not working, there are things you should be doing, in my opinion, to be ready for if there's ever like a reconciliation. One is, learning the difference between using AI in your workflow and building AI products, how to change your portfolio, right? Like, build one AI case study. And I think that, in the old days, projects that you just did for the sake of a project were frowned upon, where experimenting now is way more acceptable. So experiment and do a case study on it. I have a deck that I share with people, Claude for case studies. Claude really can help you do a really good case study if you know how to use it properly, if you use it as an extraction tool instead of a generation tool. And they want to see more around your decisions and deliverables, yes, but decisioning, like, why are you making these choices? If you've worked in conversation design and if you worked in AI, failure states, we live in those failure states. It's like, watch the pennies and the dollars will take care of themselves. It's like, watch the failure states and the happy path will take care of itself. Not completely, but a good AI product takes into consideration those edge cases and how you bounce back from a failure state. And what's wild to me and any other conversation designer out there is, in this age of agentics, you see so many people posting things that conversation designers have known for years, like it's something new, like context, right? Like, so I'm sure there's a collective giggle across the conversation designers, like, preach, sister. Yeah, these people are posting this stuff like they just invented it and we've been doing it forever. So I see you all. Shout out to my conversation people. Also, simple things like learn the vocabulary well enough to interview. Um, I actually was interviewing with a company that for a contract, and she videotaped me, and I said, how'd I do? She's like you did great. I can really tell you've actually done this work, whereas I do these all the time with people who haven't and are trying to fake it till they make it, and it's really easy to tell. They get thrown by jargon, or they so long story short, even if you haven't built it, learn it, understand it, so you can speak to it and you'll interview better. And this one, people are saying pick a lane and go deep, niche down. I have a love-hate relationship with that, because ADHD, I love a 64 pack of Crayola crayons and have them all over the table and want to use all of them and have a great time, versus if you become an expert in something and people need that expert, they will find you. So as much as I personally struggle with that one, and anybody who knows me knows I have to stop. I've stopped saying yes, because I've had way too many projects going at the same time, because I love the squirrel. I'm a squirrel chaser. Pick a lane and go deep. Okay. But don't pick a lane and go deep if you're not sure it's something that people will need. So if you're going to niche down, make sure there's a need for that niche. Don't just niche down because it's something you love. You might love it, but you'll never be able to sell it or never get hired for it. So if you're going to pick a lane and go deep, make sure you do a little market research first, which may change in 6 weeks. And I think that's part of the reason why people are so burnt out, is the constant flux. It's really hard to say, I'm definitely going to do this. And then you start down that path, and, a month or two later, it's like, well, don't need that anymore, or that changed again. So I think we're experiencing a lot of people leaving socials, a lot of people not reading their newsletters, a lot of people just burnt out on the overabundance of information and looking for human connection. I've been going to in-person network events, and they're just, New York business networking, and the people there are like, I don't believe what I get in my email. I don't believe what I see on YouTube. I can only believe what's really in front of my face in the real world now, because of the slop factor and all the scams. And, it's just a really hard time to be trying to do so many different things and not being sure if it's going to come to fruition, which is why I try and always position myself to help designers kind of figure out what's likely coming next and what's a smart, safe bet for me to put my time into. And I think voice of AI still to this day covers a lot of what I think will be important to be a quote unquote generalist in the design field for now. But I think that's going to continue to change as design change. Design is going to continue to change for a while, but judgment will always be a skill that is important and people will hire for. But I just think right now it's just a mess on every end and very hard to make definitive decisions as to where you should be spending your time and effort.
If I can make a small recommendation, it's perfectly free and acceptable for you to copy and paste the job descriptions of 1 to 3 or 5 different job applications in the domain or role that you're looking for, and then put it into a Word doc or a Google Doc, download it as a PDF, and you can reinsert it into any LLM of your choice to conduct a deeper analysis. What are the patterns? What are the clusters? If you feel comfortable and you have a paid account and you have privacy on for your own file system, you can also upload your resume and see where are the gaps. What do I qualify for? Number one, number two, number three, or number four and two are the ones that I can aim for. How far is the gap? And then based off of that, you have a list of things that you can prioritize your time and energy against. Should I learn this new tool or way of thinking or higher level problem solving methodology? But to go buck wild and say, these tool vendors are promising these things, I'm going to go get a certificate in that, or I'm seeing that everybody wants someone that does AI, but I don't know how to define AI. I don't even know which vocabulary to define that in the context of what I do. I'm just gonna grab whatever comes up in my feed. No, you got to be a little bit more strategic. If you only have a limited set of time, and you're all looking to position yourselves to be where the ball is going to be next, right? So
Yeah.
those are my 2 cents.
Yeah. And I think one of the things about LLMs is using it as an extraction tool to find your skill gaps, and then deep diving into whatever those skill gaps are. I mean, it's as simple as, quiz me 20 questions that an early career conversation designer should know, right? And then what you don't know, but now you know what you don't know, and you can learn it, right? And that's one of the things I've really loved in creating so much content is I'll create my content and then put it in there and say, is there anything missing, right? If I wrote a piece about context, what's missing? Oh, you're missing this, this, and this. And I'm like, oh, I don't know this and this. And I love being able to fill in those skill gaps that way. But I really have a lot of sympathy for people who are not sure where to put their energy because of the job market changing so often and so quickly. But I think you are spot on when you say grab 5 or 6 of those job descriptions and put them in an LLM and figure out where your gaps are, and then figure out a way to learn those things in a way that doesn't, like for me, I learn in a very specific way. I love being able to grab content and bend it to my will based on how I learn. And I think keeping the cognitive load of learning lower so you can get through it without more exhaustion is a skill that I've really harnessed. If it's a topic that I'm just being introduced to, right? Like loop engineering is all the rage this week. I'll say, what is loop engineering? Explain it to me on a 7th grade level. And it'll explain it to me like I'm a child. But at that point, I'm not stressed. It's still easy. Am I interested in learning this? Yes, I am. Then I will get to a college level. But when it comes to the times where I'm screening, am I even interested in this? I dumb it down for myself so I can very quickly decide, yes, I'm in, no, I'm out. So to me, it's just an accumulation of deciding how much of your cognitive abilities are you going to focus into something to try and help you avoid that burnout, because the burnout is everywhere. It's everywhere. So it's just a little trick that I use to kind of help tamper burnout. It's different for everybody. Different people learn. I had somebody say to me, "Oh, I can't watch a video to learn. I need text. I need," and I was like, "Oh man, I do not relate." Right? Like, so knowing yourself and knowing how to self-compute efficiently and keeping your cognitive load, to minimize until you find something you really want to deep dive into is just a nice little trick that somebody who works 7 days a week and is addicted to learning, I've had to do just kind of for my own for my own mental well-being, which is something that I always talk to people about during this process, is time box your day, take care of your mental health. This is really hard. It's not going to last forever. Yes, everything's changing. And there are people like myself who just love all the change and chaos, and other people who find it crippling. And if you're one of those people who find it crippling, I feel for you, but you can definitely find strategies to make it work for yourself. And you can definitely use AI as an extraction tool to help you figure out what that looks like specific to yourself.
Well, thank you very much, Anne, for the comforting words and describing the two paths that we're diverging into. AI in your workflow to improve your operational capabilities, and AI native products. Designing for that specifically is another skill set in its own. Uh, but
And I think that's where things are headed. Like you will need to do both. Not, you will need to use AI in your workflow, but you will also need to learn how to design AI products. There will always be a small segment that is doing things the old way, the medium way, the new way, and the new way. But everything is in flux right now, and the best thing you could do is just be prepared.
Thank you, Anne. And
Yeah.
with that, we're going to take a break, and we're going to be back in about 8 minutes or so. But we hope you could stick around and watch some of the other sessions. Otherwise, pleasure having you.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.